Hello, welcome to iHeart Cooking. I'm registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
And I'm Chef Dugan Wetzel.
We are both from Reid Hospital. Today's program is brought to you by a grant from the American Heart Association and is also brought to you by Reid Hospital and Healthcare Services, WCTV, and RPNL. Our live audience joining us today is from the Diabetes Support Group. Today we're going to be cooking healthy homemade salad dressings. Cooking, like I mentioned, we're going to be making homemade salad dressings. And the very first one that we're going to begin with is going to be a Dijon marinated vegetable medley, which doesn't so much sound like salads maybe, but it does have a dressing and it does maybe have a little lettuce and salad at the end, but Absolutely. This is going to be more black beans, green beans, corn, but yet it is categorized as a salad.
Absolutely.
So we'll get started with the dressing here that we have.
Okay. First thing we're actually going to do is combine all of our dressing ingredients, balsamic vinegar, garlic, Dijon, sugar, white pepper. We're going to incorporate it into a bowl and kind of blend it all together. So give me a second here and I'll just add everything.
So balsamic vinegar, sometimes you can have 1/4 of a cup to 1/2 of a cup, maybe add some water to dilute it a little bit depending on taste preferences. Of course, Dijon, that's in the title, we're going to have that Dijon mustard. Mm-hmm. You can use artificial sweeteners in this as well if you want to cut back on the amount of carbohydrates that are going to be in this product. Being that we're thinking heart healthy, that helps as well for calorie-wise, but also if we're thinking diabetic friendly, using an artificial sweetener will definitely help back on those carbohydrates.
Absolutely. And something I'm just going to mention on this recipe here, we're only combining it because we're going to add all of our vegetables to this and let it kind of marinate. In a couple recipes here in a second, we'll explain why it's easier to leave the oil out so that you can kind of incorporate it and show, blend everything together. So give me a quick second here to kind of blend it all together. And as you can see at home, the oils and the vinegar, the acids, they're kind of still separated. There's kind of a light color here on the outsides, whereas all the acids are kind of sticking towards the middle. And I'll explain that here in a second why that is and how you can kind of bring it all together and make it hold. So, all right, so now that that's incorporated, we're going to go ahead and start adding all of our vegetables. First one we're going to do is just a nice diced green bean, frozen green beans.
And you do want to make sure these are thawed because a lot of times if it has extra water and it's thawing in the recipe, it'll dilute the actual dressing. Mm-hmm. So these are thawed. You can use fresh corn, fresh green beans, but being that it's still, early spring, we don't have a lot of fresh produce available, these are perfectly fine to use. They don't have a lot of sodium content. If you think of a serving size is 2/3 of a cup, there's 0 grams of sodium. Some frozen vegetables actually do have some sodium in it. Being that it's non-starchy green beans, there's very, very few carbohydrates, but the corn will have a few carbohydrates in them.
The rest of the ingredients that we're going to add, I've added corn, black beans that we've rinsed, and diced tomatoes. Now, since we're using a balsamic vinegar, it's extremely acidic, we're going to go ahead and add some herbs. Thyme being one of them and basil being the other. A little trick here with thyme, instead of going through and plucking off all these leaves, an easy thing to do is just grab it from the top, kind of hold on firm because you're going to be pulling on it, and lightly grab underneath where the stalk is, and then just pull down. As you can see, everything off that stalk has now come off of it and it's sitting here in my hands. Just incorporate that in the dish. Now the final one we're going to add here is just a little bit of basil. There's a couple ways that you can do it. You can go ahead and dice it however you want. I like to chiffonade cut it, which is you lay them all flat on top of each other just like this, and then you just easily roll them together, making kind of a sphere shape. So Once you do that, it just makes it simple to cut. Just go through and make it as small as you want. Okay. And then that will just go right on top. The final ingredient that we're going to add here is red onion. Has a nice flavor, kind of balances the acidity of the balsamic vinegar. For most of you that have seen the show, you've seen me do this a couple times, but for our live audience, this is how I like to cut up onions. It's easy, it kind of contains the mess, and it's very, very nice for you at home. I actually start from the bottom and work down. I cut through the root all the way to the top, holding the root in place, and you'll see why here in a second. Go ahead and I trim off the top part. Gives me an easy access to the skin, so I can just peel that back and off. Okay, now is where we actually begin our dicing. And the reason that we keep the root in here is so it holds it all together, because the way that I'm going to cut this, you're going to have a lot of strands and things going everywhere. So this is real simple. Go about 3/4 of the way in, and then just lightly slide your knife through it, just like that. Okay. So as you can see, there's just pieces. We've cut them into straight lines. Next thing we're going to do is lay it flat again and put your hand on top of it, keeping your fingers away from the blade. Go through it. Same thing, 3/4. And that kind of breaks it down to about 1/4 inch. Then you go through right over top of it and dice it. Very simple, small dice, very easy, and as you can see, it has contained everything in the onion. You don't have little pieces everywhere, and it's an easy cleanup.
And it's safe for knife skills, because if you're trying to make dices and it's falling all apart, your fingers might get slipped in the way, and we don't want anybody injured when they're doing this.
Absolutely.
But it's very quick and easy. Make sure you have a nice knife to use as well. Make sure it's very sharp. I have family members who try to do this with a paring knife. It's probably not going to work. You're actually more likely to cut yourself with that instead. So get a nice chef's knife when you're doing that.
Absolutely. Okay, so now that we have everything in the vinaigrette dressing here, we're going to let it marinate for 4 or 5 hours?
Yep, 4, 6 hours,
Okay.
just to get the flavor in it, because you're going to see that after it's been marinating for a while, we're going to drain it. We're actually going to take the dressing off, but the flavor's still going to be in those black beans, the green beans, the corn, and the onions that we have there.
Yeah.
So. Now that the final product, we do have it complete. It has been marinating for about 5 hours now in the refrigerator. We're going to actually drain it. So you're going to use a colander to actually drain the dressing off of it, and we're going to have your final product. So
very simple. What I like to use actually is a colander that fits inside of a bowl. As you can see here, it's got the holes in it, so you can add your product and it'll contain it. And all the liquids, all the vinegars are going to actually go into the bottom bowl. Again, another easy cleanup step for you. And very simple. Just add it to this this colander here. And you can kind of see from when you were first cutting up all your vegetables and everything how bright they were. They've kind of turned dull. They're a lot darker. That's because they're absorbing all that liquid from the vinegars and the oils. It's going to have an extreme amount of flavor just from
absolutely.
Sitting here for 5 hours. Yeah.
And kind of while he's doing this, we'll talk a little bit more about nutrition. The black beans. They're going to contain carbohydrates for those of you who are diabetic, but again, it's going to have some in there because the green beans won't have much, the tomatoes won't have many carbs, so you do need some carbs. Also, the black beans are containing protein. So you have your starchy vegetables, your non-starchy vegetables, and then you have a plant-based protein, which don't have any saturated fats like animal proteins do. So it makes a little bit more well-balanced meal for you. So it can be a complete meal almost right here. You just could add a fruit, add a milk, yogurt, something else to make it, or to add another food group to it.
Let that sit for about 3 or 4 minutes. Make sure all the liquid's coming off of it. because once you put it on your salad, you want to make sure all that water's out because it's going to make your lettuce extremely soggy, and you want crisp lettuce. So
that's something here that we actually have iceberg lettuce here. Iceberg lettuce, there's not much to it. It's just basically water. There's other maybe better choices like romaine, spinach that you could have. If you want, the recipe does calls that you can use a whole leaf lettuce, like a whole probably romaine lettuce you can use, kind of like those lettuce wraps if you ever seen them. That's kind of what we're doing with it, that you'd put that on the bottom and then put this actual mixture on top. So it's kind of like a leaf lettuce wrap. But we're just going to have a side of iceberg lettuce here. You just put a little bit of this mixture on. Make sure it drains really well. And then you'll just put this off to the side. And then you just have your whole salad here. So that is the complete final product that you will have when you make this. Okay? And it's nice because there's additional color besides just green. You got the yellows, you got the reds. Of course, color plays an important part of our nutrition with the types of foods we're eating. So it's a pretty dish to have, and it's nice during the summertime as well because it's not a hot dish, it's cold. So hot summer day, this would be great to have. The next salad dressing we're going to be making is the classic vinaigrette dressing. So we're going to just have the dressing and kind of explain later then how you can pair it up with any type of salad out there. So Dugan will kind of get started with the vinaigrette.
First thing we're going to do is add all of our ingredients except for the oil. For this specific recipe, we're using a red wine vinegar. You can use any kind of vinegar you want, whatever flavors you like. I know they make raspberries, orange. You know, they make plenty of fruit ones, apple cider, that's another good one. As long as it's a vinegar, you're good to go. So we're going to add our Dijon mustard to it. That's going to kind of help with our emulsion, kind of helping it stay together. I'll explain that here in a second. And a little bit of pepper just for flavor. The reason we're leaving the oil out is because what we are going to try and do is, like I just said, emulsify everything together. You know, if you see the dressings that you buy in the store, how sometimes they separate when you're at home and you've got to shake them back to bring it all together. By doing this slowly, it kind of extends that life, so you don't have to constantly be stirring and pulling it out and re-whisking it so that it stays emulsified. So if you could help me by slowly pouring that in there. Yeah.
Get a little bit of workout on the same time when you're doing this. And for viewers at home, in the audience, I know it's hard to see this right now, but at home, if you get a shot of this, you can see that the color's changing, you can see it mixing together. So nice exercise doing this, so it takes a little bit. You can actually probably also use this in a blender. If you don't have hands available, put it in a blender, and all you do is turn it on and slowly add the oil, so you don't have to sit there and constantly whisk it. But
I would recommend that. Yeah,
well, we're going to kind of now show you how you have your salad dressing complete. Many of you probably seen he added pepper, but he did not add any salt to it. So for people who are used to more of a salt to that, it might seem very bland, but the reason we don't add salt is because we're thinking heart healthy. The more sodium you have in your diet, the more risk of fluid retention, hypertension that you have. So we want to kind of eliminate that because you get enough in your diet already. And if you look at a lot of the commercially prepared salad dressings, you'll see a lot of sodium in them. So that's something that's very common. So by making it by yourself, you can eliminate that. And you actually know what is going into your product. So we're just going to kind of prepare a salad here. Now, when we think of salads, sometimes we get in the routine, we add the same things over and over and over again. Salads, the nice thing about it, you can make it a lot of different ways and change it up every single time. So if you're interested in some different things, I mean, I have a lot of different things we could add here. One of them is dried cranberries, dried fruit. I have dried cherries here. strawberries, mandarin oranges. I mean, those are all popular things that a lot of people add to salads. And plus, it gives you a little bit of your fruit intake. So we can just typically add some dried crim or cherries as much as you want. I do have romaine lettuce here, which is a little bit more nutritious than the iceberg lettuce. A nice thing is the more dark green leafy vegetables you have, you see that there are more nutrients there. A nice thing about a lot of salads and different types of lettuce, very low in calories as well, and carbohydrates. So we can add that. I have some walnuts. You can actually add some walnuts here, almonds, any kind of nuts. It helps give you a little bit more protein there, and it has some good fats like the mono and polyunsaturated fats. And like I said, we'll just add some tomatoes to it too. And that's something you can cut up those tomatoes. Some people like the cherry or the grape tomatoes, eat them whole, so it's however you prefer. And then we can just kind of put some salad dressing on there and you have a complete salad. So again, nice thing about this, you can make it any way you want.
Yep. Okay.
One thing about salad dressings, they can contain a lot of calories. If you look at the salad dressings on the shelf, contain a lot of calories. If you want to watch for weight, you can have salad dressings off to the side. Dip your fork in the salad dressing first and then dip it in the salad. It helps reduce a lot of the sodium in commercially prepared ones. It helps produce less calories. Of course, the recipe that we made, a lot of those are already cut out, so you don't have to worry so much about that. There are, if you do make your homemade salad dressings, there are containers out there that you can buy to put your dressing in it. Some of them even measure out a 2 tablespoon measuring, because that is the typical measurement or portion size for salad dressings, that then you can just add it on there. So products like that are out there for you if you do make your own salad dressings at home.
One other thing, if you are going to make your salad dressings at home, it is important to use different oils based on the vinegars that you use. With the red wine vinegar being so intense, it's okay to use an olive oil that has a little bit stronger flavor to it. If you're going to use, say, the balsamic or like a sherry vinaigrette, nut oils are a nice option, like the walnut oils, things like that you see in the store, just because it has a little bit more subtle flavor and it'll balance that balsamic. And then canola oil, everybody knows canola oil. That's going to go with your flavored vinegars, your raspberries, your orange, your apple cider, because you don't want to take away from that fruit vinegar. So you're going to use a neutral oil. So just for your information, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to get ready to do the next salad dressing. We got 2 more salad dressings that we're going to do. The next one we're going to do, a favorite of everybody's, is ranch dressing, but we're going to make a lighter version of it. So that's what we're going to be making next. Now we're going to be making our light ranch dressing. So again, a very, very popular dressing that a lot of people like. Ranch tends to have a lot of calories and fat associated with it. So we're going to kind of cut that out, and we're going to make it a healthier, lighter version for you. So,
when I think ranch, I think buttermilk and extra heavy-duty mayonnaise. Unfortunately, fortunately, we're doing a healthier version for you. Still keeping the buttermilk, but we're substituting non-fat Greek yogurt for the extra heavy-duty mayonnaise. And this is how easy ranch dressing really is to make. You combine everything, you whisk it together, and you've got ranch dressing. First thing I did was the buttermilk. I'm going to go ahead and add the non-fat Greek yogurt.
And you want to make sure it's plain flavor, because if you add vanilla flavor,
absolutely,
it is not going to taste the same. So make sure you do have the plain Greek yogurt. We tend to have Greek yogurt because it's a little thicker, and that's what's going to make it more like ranch dressing.
Add some chives, some parsley, a little bit of sugar, and apple cider vinegar for that bite. Something I like to add to ranch dressing is pepper. I'm a big pepper fan, and I think it kind of balances that vinegar out pretty well. So
yeah, I usually add pepper to mine as well. The recipe doesn't call for it, but you can add it. Again, you can use artificial sweeteners to decrease the amount of carbohydrates in this dressing and also the calories.
Now that everything's together, very simple, you whisk it and your ranch dressing's done. The nice thing about that is you can also adjust how much Greek yogurt or how much buttermilk that you add to it, depending on how thick you like your ranch dressing. Some people like it a little more runny, so they'll add a little bit more buttermilk. If they like it thicker, go ahead and, you can reduce the buttermilk or you can add a little bit more Greek yogurt to it. So
again, we're just going to kind of develop another salad version that you can do. I have spinach here, which is a dark green leafy vegetable, high in vitamin K, a lot of other vitamins and minerals, low in calories, a lot more nutritious than the typical, again, iceberg lettuce that you have. So it's a very, very good choice to have, that's going on spring, it's becoming more in season, so it's a good choice. And you can always mix any other types of lettuce with this. We're gonna add a pepper to this, because sometimes you like to chew on peppers or dice them, have slices of them in your salad. We do have a green pepper here, but because you're putting it on green spinach, you might want other colors like the yellow, the orange, the red, make it a little bit more colorful plate for you as well.
Sure.
But Dugan has a really cool way of cutting this up. I love it.
It's actually really simple. You're not going to go ahead and cut the top off like a lot of people do. You're actually going to go in maybe a 1/4 of an inch to a 1/2 of an inch and then just work your way around the pepper. Once you've made it all the way to the other side, you can see that it's still intact. That's the pith, the white pieces in there that are holding it together. Very easily, just take your thumb and stick it inside there, kind of push it out of the way. And what I like to do is get underneath the seeds and then just lift it out. That way you have nothing in here, it's completely clean, and all of your seeds are still stuck to the top. So now you're not fighting around with seeds. The next day you're finding green pepper seeds on your counters or anything like that. It's all in the trash. So, and then the next step, all I do, I'm going to cut off the bottom. You can use the bottom, dice it up, and add it to your salad. Don't get rid of it. It's still edible. But I'm going to make strips here real quick. There we go. Now that we've cut it off, just easily go along it, get that white part, the pith off. It's nice and flat and it's ready to go.
So great little tip there. I love that because, you can keep the pepper whole. It works great for stuffed peppers.
Yes, absolutely.
But then you can just add those onto the top of the salad. You can dice it more, leave it in strips, however you prefer. Mm-hmm. Peppers tend to be very sweet, so it adds a little bit of sweetness to that salad. I'm also going to be adding some almonds now to this salad as well. For additional ideas, you could always do a hard-boiled egg, cut that up. You have a protein there on addition to the vegetables that you're adding here. You could add chicken to it. Again, make it to what you like. You can basically add anything to a salad. Mm-hmm. And then we'll just add, so we got our peppers, we got our almonds, and our spinach. You could add any kind of protein to it, and we're just going to drizzle some of our ranch dressing on there, and you have a complete salad there. Salad number 3 there.
Okay.
And the next salad we're going to be making is the Italian dressing, which is another very popular dressing to have. Now we're going to be making our last salad dressing for the show, and that is going to be Italian dressing. Very similar to the very first vinaigrette dressing that we made.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. You're going to add your vinegars and all of your other ingredients. We're going to use garlic, parsley, and a little bit of oregano. We're actually using dried oregano for this recipe.
So again, keep in remembrance you can use fresh. Just remember the 3-to-1 ratio there. Use less dried if you do have the recipe that says it's fresh.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I have made that mistake before, so.
A funny thing, actually, you say the 3-to-1 ratio for dry to fresh. An easy thing to remember at home, if you are deciding to make your own dressings, is a 3-to-1 ratio. You're going to want 3 parts fat to 1 part vinegar or acid of some kind, just to kind of help with that emulsion. It's going to give you that nice thickness. If you want it to be a little runnier, feel free to add a little bit more of the acid than you would normally. But 3-to-1 again is another easy thing to remember. So, and you can also substitute vinegars for citrus juices because they have acids in them. You can use orange juice, you can use apple juice, any of those things. Most of the time you have those at home, so it's easier. Sometimes people don't have a raspberry vinegar just sitting in their shelf or anything like that. You can get a pomegranate juice that's got acid in it. Very simple, very easy, and as you've seen so far, very quick to make at home. So, the final ingredient we're going to add to this is a diced onion. I'm going to show you real quick. We want to kind of nullify the intensity of the red onion. So what we've went ahead and did is actually cut it like we normally would, and like I showed you earlier, how you cut it, how you dice it. I left it whole for now, and I sat it in water for about 15 minutes. That kind of relieves some of that intensity that you would normally have from a red onion. And then go ahead, pull it out, put it on the cutting board, and dice it up. Add it to your dressing here.
Especially since it is being, I mean, if you cook with it, you wouldn't have to worry about that, but because it's raw, because it's in a salad, there's not a lot of other strong flavors that would take away from the onion, that the onion, if you don't do that, tends to be very strong in flavor and kind of hides up everything else that you're eating. So.
Gonna whisk this together real quick, kind of incorporate it in the vinegar, and then we'll start with the oil.
Again, you can use a blender for this, and just nice and slowly add it in. Takes a little bit of time. Now these recipes that we are making are doubled in size, so the ingredients that you see, this will not take as long putting the oil in there.
No.
But because of our audience members, we wanted to make sure we have enough, so the portion sizes are a little larger than what the actual recipe is going to make for you.
Okay.
And again, we're just going to make another salad here. I do have iceberg lettuce on this one. Again, not very much nutrition whatsoever. It's a lot of water there, no calories, no carbs. We're just going to be adding a little bit of carrots on top. I'm going to add some almonds again. You can add a protein to this, like a chicken. You can add a hard-boiled egg. I have strawberries here. I'm going to leave them whole for now, but you can cut them up, slice them. I'm sure very familiar with putting them with a lot of spinach salads, strawberries, but it adds a fruit to this, so you have your vegetables, your fruit, you can add a protein, so you have 3 food groups right in here. Just another version of a salad that you could make, and we're just going to drizzle that Italian dressing on there, and again, that is our 4th and final salad for today. Again, like I kind of remind you, there are dishes or containers available that you can buy that you put the salad dressing in, and you can pour it out, keep it in your fridge, keeps it nice and contained. I couldn't think of the word for it, so it will help instead of just having in a dish like this. Thanks for tuning in to iHeart Cooking. I hope you enjoyed all the information and recipes that we provided today.
For more heart-healthy recipes, you can visit the American Heart Association's website at heart.org or reidhospital.org/iHeartCooking.
We'll see you next month.